Okay squad, welcome back. Now I hope you've already watched part 1 of this series, which focuses on Logic Pro X, and if you haven't, a link is on the screen right now so you can jump straight there. Today we're going to be looking at Pro Tools and the tracks you can create within that environment, and in the next video it's going to be Ableton Live. Now I hope you find it useful, so let's get straight into it. Okay, so we're now in the Pro Tools platform and we're going to be looking at how Pro Tools handles creating new tracks and the different types of tracks you can create and some of the basic features that come with those individual tracks. I've got 1985 loaded up here just as I did in Logic, and the only difference is I haven't arranged all of the tracks in groups as I would normally do in Logic. You'd have seen in Logic where I've got, say, my drums maybe all in a group. So normally I'd have my drums at the top. Let me scroll down a little bit here. Claps. Yeah, and I'll just move things around like so. Crash cymbals. What I generally do, just to kind of keep things in order, I'll group things together. So drum be right at the very top and so on. But this video is not so much about how to arrange things in groups in Pro Tools. It's about how to create tracks and those basic features. Okay, so just like in Logic, Pro Tools uses the timeline format where the playhead runs from left to right. So let me just play back and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so as you can see, the playhead was running from left to right. I've got my left locator here at bar 17 and the right locator at bar 25. So again, similar to Logic, the tracks are stacked one on top of the next. So this here is your kick drum track, and this is the audio region related to this track here, and right here is our drum roll track, and you can see the audio here. Now all I've got loaded up right now are audio tracks because I've pulled in the stems from the song, so there are no software instrument tracks loaded at the moment, but I'll show you how to do that in a second. Now if I wanted to pull up my channel fader for the kick drum one, I'd click right here, just a little icon right here, and I can pull up my fader. Let's make the track height a little bit bigger. If I click right here, I can choose to go to medium and the display changes slightly and you can see a bit more information. And right next to IO 1 and 2, which is our main stereo out, click this little fader icon and the fader comes up. Okay, and this toggles things on and off. Okay, so let's go back to small. Now creating tracks, let's come up here to the top, and if we went to track, we can create new. And we have different track options that we can choose from. We can select the number of tracks we want to create in one go. Let's say I wanted to create a stereo track and stereo audio track, and I'm going to hit create. And right here, as you can see, I've got my new stereo audio track. Click that, our fader comes up, click right here, and I can change this to, let's go for large, and you can see the track height is much bigger. That's fairly straightforward for any of you working in this platform or any DAW. Now let's go back to track and let's go to new again, and we're going to go to stereo, and this time we're going to choose an instrument track. So this will be a software instrument track, and I'm now going to click create. The instrument track comes up. I'm going to make this large, our keyboard symbols here. Okay, so in order for me to insert or enable a new software instrument, I need to change my display. So I'm going to go to view, I'm going to go to edit window views, and I'm going to choose inserts A to E. And this is where we can insert things for our tracks. And I'm also going to go edit windows instruments. So now under inserts, I'll click here. I'll come down to multi-channel plugins. I'm going to come over to instrument, and then I'm going to choose, let's say, expand 2. Okay, and now we have our MIDI instrument loaded. So that's how you load up your instrument. And because I've got instrument loaded here, I can manage certain things such as pan position, the volume of the actual instrument. That's on this track. Let's say, for example, this was closed, you know, I can manage the volume, pan position, and one or two other things. So it's quite handy having this. It's not necessary, but it's quite handy. I'm going to turn it off for now. Instruments, and moving on, let's go back to track and go to new. And this time we're going to load a MIDI track. So this will be create, and as you can see right here, we have a new MIDI track. So you'd use this type of track. So if you had external MIDI devices, you can set that up using the MIDI track option. Okay, again, moving on. Now we're going to go back in here and we are going to select the auxiliary input track. We're going to create one of those, and this time I'm going to make sure it's stereo and create. Right, so let's crunch these down a little bit. Make this one small, this one small, and this is our auxiliary input. Now, this is really handy because what you can do now is create group buses. So flip over to the mixer and go to window and choose mix, or we can use the key command plus or equals. Now I want to move my auxiliary input one just all the way down to the end. So let's do that. Right. So I'm going to stick it down here. Now, as you can see, there's no master fader inserted yet. In fact, let's do that now. We'll come back to the aux one and test that in a second. So let's go to new, stereo, master fader, and create. Okay, always handy to have your master fader there where everything will pour into, all of your signals will pour into that. Okay, so what we've got here is our aux one. I'm going to call this drum bus. Okay, so I want to send all of my drums into this auxiliary track. Now, we're just going to do a couple of drums. We're going to do our shaker. Let's solo that. Play back our shaker and play back our snare drum. Okay, so we're going to send these two tracks over to bus one. We're going to set this up. We're going to click on the input, which is set to no input at the moment. We're going to set it to bus 1 and 2. And so anything sent to bus 1 and 2 will end up in the drum bus. So now we're going to output the shaker. We're going to send that to bus 1 and 2. So we're outputting to bus 1 and 2 on the shaker channel, and same for the snare. So let's play that back now. Let's solo this. Okay. So if I switch the solo off the drum bus, okay, so as you can see, definitely both shaker and the snare are going through to the drum bus. Okay, let's go back in again and we're going to create new. So let's create a VCA master and create. Okay, so we've got a VCA master right here. Now the VCA master is quite a handy little option which allows you to control groups of faders in one go. We are going to go to the shaker and the snare. We want to have these two channels controlled by the VCA1 channel fader. Okay, so I'm going to adjust these slightly. So I've got a bit of variation between the two levels. Let's play that back. Okay, cool. And now what we want to do is come up to track again. We're going to go to group and we're going to select the VCA1 as our controller, and we are going to assign the snare, add that in there, and the shaker, which I'd done previously. So the snare and shaker are both in group 1. We could add more items if we wanted to, but we're just going to work with those two for now. Great. And now, if I was to play back, and I adjust the volume with my VCA1 fader, and I'm pulling it all the way down, as you can see, both faders are completely flat. However, if I push this back up, you can see they maintain the same proportion difference between the two faders. So this is really, really handy. They're still going into the drum bus, which is aux 1. The VCA fader is adjusting the whole group in equal proportion. Now, the final thing I'm going to show you is how to change your display so you can see more things on your tracks. So what you want to do, you're going to come up here to view, and we're going to look at the mix window views, and we're going to switch some things on. We're going to switch on inserts A to E. Now, if I wanted to insert maybe a compressor, this one right here. Now I've got a compressor on my shaker channel. Okay, and so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options or slots for inserts here. And let's say, for example, I'm working on a much bigger mix and I've got need for a lot more inserts. Let's say I filled up all of these slots. I'd go back up to view and go back in here, and I'd switch this one on. Okay, let's put something in here real quick. 1 band EQ in there. All right, that's cool. But now I wanted to just create a bit of space on the mixer. All I need to do, let's close this, is go back in here and we can switch these off. All we're doing is we're removing those insert slots from view. They are still having an impact. The plugins are still inserted. So if we went back in and just switch that back on, the plugin is still there, it's still doing its work. But in terms of making your screen display a lot easier to handle, you can reveal or hide the slots at your convenience, which is a really handy function with Pro Tools channel strips. The same applies over here on the edit window, and again we can switch on the inserts and a whole range of things which we can apply right here. Okay, now I hope you found this video useful, and don't forget to check out the next video which I cover the same topic on Ableton Live, and make sure you switch on your notification bell so I can inform you of my next video when it drops. I'm Dr. Duce, peace.